Good morning, kids, and welcome back to another video of Fox Flicks on PopCross Studios. Today we're continuing on his little Bio-Mech series. He's with the second part from last week's video. Oh, this time, Bio-Mech Kill Kate. Let's hop in and check it out. Also note, like in the last one, these are community redraws.
The Bio-Mechs being drawn in today's episode are adapted from community redraw art
Ta-da!
sent in by Colt Productions, Garrett Stanberry, and
wow.
Ghosty Moth. Now
Damn.
sit back and enjoy part 2 of this month's community redraw and the story, Bio-Mech Killer Kate.
Let's go.
Hit like
If you want, subscribe if you feel like it. Either way, enjoy the show.
Just waiting.
Yeah, I watched this a bit too much. Whoa, this is not one after the other. This is 3 in 1. Oh!
Here, Screwball.
Yes.
We'll come get you when we've got Kate on board. Hopefully. Kayla closed the door to her room of the Sharp Tank, leaving a new blue Bio-Mech friend on her bed. She walked through the halls rolling her shoulder around, trying to stretch out the pain in it, unsuccessfully. Her own Bio-Mech partner Charlie then asked her, "So just out of curiosity, Kayla, how are you planning to approach this? I mean, are you just going to go up and say, 'Hey Kate, do you still kill people, and if so, can you come kill a sociopath with 2 Bio-Mechs on him because I don't know if I can bring myself to do it?'" Kayla chuckled while wincing through the pain in her arm. "That probably would work, honestly, but Kate and I aren't super close. Honestly, she's kind of intimidating to be around. I don't think I've ever hung out with her one-on-one, so I think I'm gonna get to her through a buffer." Soon after, Kayla found just the buffer she was looking for, Sterling and Jill coming into the building. She and Sterling had hung out plenty, bonding over sci-fi and superhero movies, and he was now in a relationship with Kate, so Kayla figured he could tell her how best to approach her. "Hey, Kayla, Charlie, didn't know you two were coming in today. I was just off at Jake and Anna's school meeting with the headmistress." "Is something up with your arm, Kayla?" Kayla nodded. "Yeah, I kinda hurt myself on a mission that I'm thinking Charlie and I can't handle alone." He smiled. "Cool, I'm game. Is this a duo mission, or we need a bigger squad? I think there's a few people around the tank today." Kayla replied, "Actually, I don't think you can come because of your deal with Alexis.
Oh.
Morally speaking, we kinda need less of a Superman and more of a Punisher. If that's cool and, she's around today?" Sterling smirked and nodded. "Ah, you're looking for Kate. She's here, probably in the gym or her room. I'm sure she'd be happy to help you." "Right, yeah, I figured, but could you come with me to ask?" Sterling cocked his head to the side slightly. "Are you uncomfortable talking to Kate?" "No, it's just, she's kind of..."
Oh, I see now. Okay, so Kate's been combined with this blue one, and looks like Ghosty Moth was fused with this one. I can only guess that just by how on his elbow here he has that square piece, and then over here also has a square piece. Axan, and so on, so on.
"Kate,
Okay.
you get it, right? Aren't you into her because she's sort of scary?" Sterling chuckled and shook his head. "Come on, let's go see her. And for the record, I was initially attracted to her because she was scary. I fell for her because of the real her that the scariness was protecting. She's a lot different from the person who came out of Baxell's prison." Kayla was skeptical, but as they were getting up to Kate's room, through the door Kayla could hear both the thudding of fists on a punching bag, but also the very familiar song Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield, lightly coming through the walls. Sterling did a very light knock on the door that Kayla couldn't imagine anyone could have heard through the music and thudding, but seconds later the door slid open, and there was an unexpectedly soft and warm smile on Kate's face as she looked up at Sterling. But it quickly went back to Kate's more common, expressionless look. She quickly whipped a remote out of her pocket and paused the music. "Hey Sterling, Kayla, Charlie, what's up?" Sterling said, "Kayla could use your help on a mission that I can't go on. It's a code leader." Kate's face suddenly went beet red as she glanced quickly to Kayla, then back to Sterling. "Sterling, what?" Sterling looked confused for a second too.
I'm confused.
And also went a bit red himself. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I meant code Frankfurt. Her face settled a bit. "Oh, got it. Come in." Kate walked inside and started untying the boxing bands from her arms. Kayla whispered to Sterling, "What just happened here?" "It was my bad. For different sensitive situations, we have different Icelandic Icelandic code words, and I used the wrong one." Kayla nearly burst out laughing, realizing what he likely meant, but was too afraid of Kate to let it out. She followed them in and noticed that Kate's room was an odd blend of aesthetics. She had what Kayla would expect to see: a torn up punching bag, Kate's giant sword with some other melee weapons, a bunch of dirty pairs of combat boots, but she also had some beautiful lilies next to her bed, a flower petal patterned duvet, and even a couple
Really?
romance novels. Before Kayla could think more about this, though, she was asked for details on the mission.
I would
She
expect
explained
that.
that in Dimension A163, the world had been ravaged by a nuclear war, and now a sociopathic killer, Reggie Fayborn, had gotten his hands on 2 different Bio-Mechs and had the ability to make even more of them under his control to brainwash people.
I
He built a
remember that.
kingdom for himself in the rubble of an old city that was now walled off and surrounded by Biomech-enhanced dinosaurs. Fayborn was killing and brainwashing more and more people every day in this now lawless world. She and Charlie had found another Biomech ally in this world named Screwbolts, who'd gotten to that dimension at the same time as the other 2 Biomechs now on Fayborn. Screwbolts and his human partner had tried to restrain the sociopath, but that had just led to the death of Screwbolt's human
Well,
partner.
unsuccessful.
Kayla
Yeah.
finished by saying, "So, yeah, I think this is a case where we really need to go for the head, but I've never killed anyone, and I don't know if I could do it, so what do you think?" Without skipping a beat, Kate said, "Sure, let's go." She walked over to her Buster Sword and casually kicked its handle, making it spin through the air. She snatched it and walked over to Sterling. She grabbed his collar, pulled him in, and kissed him, then
Nice.
came over and stood at the ready next to Kayla. "All right, let's go." Kayla hadn't
Doesn't
thought
even
things were
question
going to
it.
go this quickly.
Click.
Right, okay, sure, but we'll need some way to get us both past the dinosaurs. Kate raised her sword. "That's what this is for." "Oh, I like your energy, but I don't know if killing them is necessary. It's not their fault they're being controlled by Fayborn." Kate nodded begrudgingly. "Fine, I can use the flat side of
But also giant, beast. Hello.
the blade on their fleshy parts." Kayla was a bit surprised Kate wasn't fighting her on anything. She'd gotten the impression Kate was kind of stubborn. "Okay, great, but we were actually thinking we could give you another leg up. Not that you need it, but it could help us get through this faster." Moments later, Kate and Kayla were back in Kayla's room, looking at the blue Biomech sitting on her bed. Kate was staring at Screwbolts for a moment without responding to Kayla's proposal. Hoping to cut the tension, Kayla said, "It'll be a lot like when Skinner splits off a piece of scythe for you to use. Biomechs and symbiotes
Oh.
are pretty similar, except most Biomechs can only change part of your body at a time. If this guy upgrades your legs, we can move a lot faster, but if you don't want to, we can figure something else out." Kate then asked, "You
I'm
name
in.
Screwbolts?" "Yes, that's right, or at least that's what my human partner Metal and his brother Zero named me, but both of them are gone now." Kate nodded. "I'm sorry to hear that, but from what Kayla said, it sounds like your partner fought bravely and you should be honored to have worked with him." Kayla was continuously baffled by how Kate spoke. When she first came to the Sharp Gang, she was angry and quiet and intimidating. The intimidating part hadn't gone away, but she seemed to have a sort of dry yet warm professionalism about her, though it was still
That's
far
good, I
from how
guess.
she seemed to act around just Sterling. Kate continued, "When you attach to someone, can you read their minds?" Screwbolts replied, "If I attach to you near your upper spine or your head, then I can interpret your brainwaves and read your current thoughts, yes." Kate nodded. "Then as long as you stay away from my head, I'll be happy to work with you." Kayla was
Wow.
nervous to ask why that was a priority for Kate, but she promptly turned and said, "It's bad enough that Skinner's gotten in my head. Not good with anyone else getting in there without my permission."
You know what? That's actually completely understandable.
Kayla just nodded. Yeah, that's totally fair." Screwbolt slid off Kayla's bed and latched onto Kate's legs, merging with them and transforming them into bulky blue, red, yellow, and silver mech legs. It stretched up to cover everything below her ribcage. She pumped her legs, and a smile that came across a bit menacing to Kayla crossed Kate's face. "This feels good. Is this how you feel all the time?" Kayla was caught off guard by the question. Yeah, it's probably pretty similar to how Charlie makes me feel." Screwbolt suddenly said, "If you want, you can hold your sword against me and I can upgrade its blade with omni-ionization. It'll make it easier to cut through Biomechs and will potentially cause them to malfunction."
Yes.
Kayla thought Kate would be sensitive about anyone messing with her sword, after the time Fear herself broke it in half, but she replied very casually, "I'll keep it in mind, but don't want to make things too easy right off the start." She turned to Kayla. "Unless you want
Everyone craves a little bit of a challenge.
me to, it's your mission, BMK." Kayla, surprised once more by Kate's unflinching cooperation, replied, "Yeah, no, however you want to play this is fine with me. You're the, expert?" Kayla immediately felt weird having said that, but Kate just nodded in agreement. A moment later, Kate set her Mujwawut to take her to Dimension A163, Charlie readied up to do the same with Kayla, and they were off to hunt a killer. They arrived in a torched and barren
Let's
field
go.
with the
Let's
walled-off mangled city in the distance. But it turned out they wouldn't have to go all the way in to find their target.
Well, I was hoping our little intruder would come back.
Kate and Kayla turned
Oh,
to see a man
good
standing
deal.
on top of a Bio-Mech Rex. He was in odd green clothes from the waist down, and from waist up, covered in 2 different Bio-Mechs, with his head coated in an eerie, grinning metal mask.
You kept leaving before we had a chance to meet, girlie. Name's Reggie, and seems like you're already familiar with Bio-Mechs, huh? But I'm afraid I can't keep you around unless you put one of mine on instead.
He said, raising up a bowling ball-sized clump of writhing metal. He then glanced over to Kate's legs.
And look at you, Screwball, making new friends. Guessing metal did kick the bucket after all, huh? Was wondering about that. And what, for round 2 you went with some bubblegum-haired muscle mommy? You think that'll go any better for you?
Of course he
Kate
would call
leaned
all
towards
that.
Kayla. Should I be offended by whatever he just called me? Kayla replied, it's almost more like a sort of creepy compliment, I guess.
It is definitely
nodded.
a creepy
Is it
compliment.
okay if I get this going?
Definitely.
Kayla replied, by all means, go for it. I don't need to hear another villain monologue. Although she was kind of bluffing, Kayla did love a good monologue. Kate launched forward, but not quite towards the dinosaur, more off to the side. She did a few leaps as well, then abrupt turns. After a moment, Kayla assumed that Kate was testing out how she could move with her new legs before going in for an attack.
Where are you going,
You have
Pinky?
to.
If you want to do a little running, I can give you some jogging buddies.
He whistled, and running in from the distance came 4 Bio-Mech Raptor Sentinels. Charlie shifted down to Kayla's legs and gave her a pair of rocket-powered rollerblades, and she headed off to help Kate.
Oh, like in the
Though
first
she
story.
soon saw that wasn't necessary. Kate leapt at the first raptor and fly-kicked it in the face, sending it tumbling backwards. She landed and whipped the broadside of her sword around in a circle, hitting another 2 of the dinos in the heads. She then leapt straight up, getting 30 feet into the air before dropping down towards another raptor. It leapt into the air at her, but she flung into a backflip and double-kicked the raptor in the face, sending it pinwheeling across the field.
Nice.
She spun a bit too far and landed on her heels, then onto her back, but rolled through it and leapt up to her feet again. Without skipping a beat, she finally started in towards the Rex and Fayborn. Kayla was in awe of Kate's moves, but then noticed the big dino opening its mouth wide, and Kayla remembered she hadn't warned Kate about everything. Kayla
Alright,
covered
the
her eyes
flash.
and yelled out, Kate, wait, the Rex can... But before Kayla could say it, the dinosaur made a blinding flash of light burst from its maw. When it passed, Kayla opened her eyes and saw Kate stumbling, with her head turned to the side, but still moving towards the Rex. Kayla didn't know how she was still going, but she shifted Charlie into a cannon and started shooting at the Rex to distract it from Kate. Kate yelled back angrily,
out.
Kayla, stop, I can't hear it when you're shooting. But as she was saying that, the Rex whipped around, swinging its tail towards her. Kate seemed to hear its feet moving and jumped, but not enough. The tail hit her legs and she ragdolled across the field, but tucked in and covered her head to control her spin. Screwbolts shifted
Damn.
briefly onto her back just before she struck the ground, and she rolled to a stop with minimal injury. With an angry growl, she picked herself up, blinking and squinting her eyes, with her vision starting to come back. Fayborn leapt off the Rex and a pair of glowing green wings sprung from his back that gently lowered him towards Kate. One of his arms then sprouted a similarly green and sparking axe.
That's kind of cool.
What are you trying to stop me for anyway, Screwboy? I'm just making humans more compliant. Left running amok, they already destroyed the world. What more are we gonna let them do, huh? At least as my puppets, they're kept in line.
He raised his axe, but Kayla shot at him while running towards him. He used the axe to block the shots and thrust his other clawed metal hand towards Kate's chest. She raised her sword to block it, edge first, so it went between 2 of his fingers, then she wrenched it to the side to crack one of them off. She then used her blade to push the arm aside, swung her leg up above her head, and hammered a metal boot down onto his shoulder, slamming him into the ground. She then thrust her sword straight down into his chest. Unfortunately, the Bio-Mech plating kept the blade from going in very far.
Whoa! You almost killed me, you pink freak!
His wings sprung out again. He smacked her blade away and swooped up off the ground. But Kate caught his leg and was getting dragged up into the air with him. Unfortunately, the Rex opened its mouth for another flash. Kate caught the movement in her peripheral vision and closed her eyes to avoid being blinded. But once she did that, Fayborn kicked her in the face, and she fell off him.
Ow.
Her mech legs made her landing easy, and she wiped blood from under her nose, watching her target fly off.
You want to try this again? Come and find me on my home turf. I'm not giving you another shot like this.
Charlie had shifted into
You're gonna
rollerblades
die.
for Kayla again, and she rolled over next to Kate. I am so sorry, I totally forgot to tell you about his light attack thing. Are you okay? Kate's lip was trembling with anger, but she said, I'm fine. Let's get into the city walls. We should regroup here and not at the shark tank, in case he can tell when we teleport in and out of this world. Don't want him tracking our movements anymore. Kayla nodded and they both headed off to the walls. The Rex was coming up behind them still, but they managed to reach the city, get inside, and
I don't know why, but I actually do like that neon green halo thing.
leave their pursuer behind. They moved into
Something
the
about
ground
it.
floor of a busted-up building, and Kate was pacing angrily, but taking slow, deep breaths. Kayla tried to apologize again. I'm really so sorry, Kate. I know that I should... Kate interrupted. Just give me a second, BMK. Kayla stopped talking and let Kate keep pacing and breathing. Eventually, she took one final slow exhale, then turned to Kayla again, with her expression having softened back to its resting state. I am mad, but mistakes happen. Let's just make sure it doesn't happen again. What else might I need to know about this place or him? Kayla started talking through everything she'd seen in this world in more detail to make sure she didn't leave anything out. Kate listened intently, processing every word. When she finished, Kate nodded. Okay, thanks. We're probably good to go for the kill now. Screwbolts, I will need you to upgrade my sword. I should have done that from the start, then we'd be done by now. And I guess you should cover my head in case Feyborn has more blinder attacks. Plus, I don't want to take another shot to my face today. Sterling always gets this sad look on his face when I come back from a mission all cut up. Once more, Kayla said, Again, I'm so sorry, I should have warned you. Kate shrugged as she held her blade to her mech
Mistakes
leg.
happen. Oop, that's an ad. We'll be right back. And we're back. Let's go.
Okay. Kayla stopped talking and let Kate keep pacing and breathing. Eventually, she took one final slow exhale, then turned to Kayla again, with her expression having softened back to its resting
Huh, that's a little strange.
state. Just make sure walking through everything she'd seen, processing to go for done by or blinder attacks. I come back and warned you. Kate shrugged as she held her blade to her mech leg, and it started to glow bright
Okay, there
red.
we go. We're back.
It's fine, I've calmed down now. I'm sorry if I overreacted. I'm still working on being less defensive. Kayla was astounded to hear an apology back from Kate. No, you didn't overreact. Being mad was totally understandable. You know, Kate, I'm starting to realize I don't really know what you're like. To be honest, I was kind of scared to ask for your help today, but you're way more chill than I thought. No offense. I guess since I haven't spent a ton of time with you, my idea of you was kind of based on my first impression just after you joined the team.
Yeah,
Kate
that
raised her
happens.
now glowing sword. That makes sense. Honestly, I don't totally know what I'm like yet either. When I was trapped in back cells for 20 years fighting in the fighting arenas, I had to be on guard all the time. Anyone could have killed me at any second if I wasn't. I didn't get to have a personality. I basically had to become an unbreakable, soulless machine. No offense, Screwbolts or Charlie. The way Sterling said it once to me is probably best. I was in autopilot, just protecting myself, and that's it. After I escaped, it was hard to get out of that autopilot because I'd been in it for so long. Sterling was
just
the one
makes
that made me
sense.
feel the most safe to start figuring out what me out of autopilot mode is like, because he could always handle it best when I fell back into that and got really defensive. So when I'm with him, I'm most relaxed.
I actually really like how he combined the two Bio-Mechs. Bio-Mechs. Like, we got the body and kind of art style of the gray one, but we got a lot more of, like, the artistic taste and abilities from the green one.
Relaxed
I
about
love it.
figuring out what the real me is like. I'm working on letting my guard down around more people, but it's a slow process trying to rewire your brain to not see everyone as a threat. For now, with other people, I'm just trying to be more polite, even if I don't let them see the other parts of me yet. Kayla was in awe by how much Kate had just been willing to admit. She was pretty sure she'd never heard her speak that long before. Wow, well that's all really good to know, but does the real you not want to go on missions like this then? I don't need you to be the one to take this guy out if it's not something you want to do anymore. Kate rocked her head back and forth a little bit considering what Kayla said. I think part of me does still love getting in fights and hacking an enemy to pieces, because it's hard to not love something you're really good at, but it's also been kind of weird to learn that another part of me likes getting flowers and having someone hold me. Kate's face
Aww.
flushed a bit as she said that, and the same smile she had around Sterling slightly crept back to her face. I don't know how those two sides of me fit together, but I'm figuring it out. Kayla smiled.
Cute.
That's really cool to hear, and I'm sorry I kinda had you in a box as the person you were when you came out of back cells. I feel like I'm my most real self around Charlie and Tayron too. It's really nice to have people that you can totally let your guard down around. And
Totally.
it's not just a you thing to not lower it around everybody. Kate's smile
You
widened
always need
more.
that group of people
Huh.
that just
Good to know.
know
Thanks,
you.
Kayla.
for
By
you.
the way, can I ask a weird question? She said, glancing at Charlie. Does Charlie stay attached to you all the time? Like even when you sleep or when you and Tayron, Kate's face started to go red again. Kayla realized what she meant. Oh, no, I mean, when I sleep, yes, he does, but Charlie detaches from me for stuff like that.
For personal
I mean,
matters.
one time he didn't detach for it, but it was really weird for all of us. Don't tell anyone that, though. Kate grinned and nodded. Keep your mouth shut about the lilies in my room and it's a deal, BMK. Kate twirled her sword around, leaving a pink trail of light as it moved, then said, now let's go slaughter a psychopath.
Yeah!
They set off again, with Charlie tracking Faborn's Bio-Mechs towards the center of the city. Kayla was on her blades and Kate was running, and seemed to be having a lot of fun with how she could move her body with her Bio-Mech upgrade. She was leaping off walls and kicking into floors of buildings just to leap out of them again and flip through the air to land back on the streets. Kayla started getting into it too, gliding up along some walls and flinging herself off into backwards glides. They complimented each other on their moves, and it was nice to have such a light-hearted moment with Kate. But they both cooled it on the maneuvers as they got closer to a partially destroyed building on top of which they could see Faborn, floating with two Sentinel Bio-Mech pterodactyls flapping next to him.
So it looks like you weren't too scared to come back for another round, huh, Beef Cheeks?
Kayla yelled up.
Cheeks.
Scared? You're the one who ran away to hide in your fort.
It's not a fort, it's a kingdom, and you and your burly friend aren't welcome unless you're under my control.
Kayla shook her head. Is that the best line you got? For a villain with a cool voice, your banter is really mid, pal.
Yeah.
Shut up, your Bio-Mechs are mid.
Charlie replied.
Hey, hold on, hold on. Let me give a reply. Hey, how old are you? Because you sounded like a 12-year-old!
Technically, that's not completely inaccurate. I am roughly mid-sized as far as Bio-Mechs go, but I'd say Screwbolts is closer to large-sized. Screwbolts then chimed in. And while I believe Charlie's size may be in the mid-range, his power level is significantly higher than the average Bio-Mech, likely due to much training and activity with Kayla. Kayla shook her head. Okay, so we're not great on the banter front either. Kate, you got anything?
No.
I'm gonna cut this guy's head off and feed it to his birds. She said, leaping onto the building and kicking up the side using busted open footholds.
I'm sorry,
Kayla
but I'm
chuckled.
loving this.
Well, that's more like the scary you I remember, but I guess this is the time and place for it.
Damn
Charlie
right.
and I'll handle the dinos. The pterodactyls swooped down towards Kate as she neared the top of the building, and both of them opened their mouths wide. A burst of light came from each of them, but now part of Screwbolts had shifted up off Kate's stomach onto her head, giving her a helmet that could produce lenses to protect her. The light barely phased her, and she leapt at one of the dinosaurs, kicked off its head, and landed on top of the building.
Aw, need a face guard, do you now? How's that nose feeling after tasting my boot?
Kate spun her sword around and
Yeah.
marched towards Faborn. I've had my nose broken 27 times, and you didn't even hit me hard enough to make it 28. I don't even consider someone
Wow.
a threat until they break my arm or crack a rib or something at least.
Oh my god, who the hell are you?
He made an axe come out from one of his arms again, and he swung it at her. She casually raised her sword and deflected it. He slashed his clawed arm
That
at
would have been like the perfect moment for her to say Battle Master Kate. Or, well, no, I guess it should have been Bio-Mech Killer Kate. Damn, it's right there in the
her next,
title.
but she grabbed the yellow handle sticking out of it and used it to pull him past her, then completely disrespected him by just tapping the back of his head with her sword. He glanced back at her, walking towards him, and let his wings sprout out again, leaping into the air. Before he got far, though, she hurled her sword at him, and it stuck right through his shoulder. He screamed as he kept trying to fly away, but the glowing blade was making his whole body glitch out. Kate leapt off the building and grabbed her sword, holding onto it and his back as he flew. She then wrenched her sword to the side and made him turn, flying face first into a building. Meanwhile, Kayla had shifted Charlie into a helmet to protect her vision, and into a grapple arm as the dinos flew down towards her. Kayla let them get closer, then shot her grapple arm and grabbed onto one of their necks, then moved into the path of the other. She ran up onto a car, then as the other dino tried to snap her in its jaws, she dodged around it and jumped onto its back, wrapping her wire around its neck. She then held tight to it and reeled in her arm, holding the other dinosaur. The pterodactyls were pulled together and their wings smacked against each other, making them both flop out of the air onto the busted-up street.
Ooh,
Kayla
that's
released
gonna
her grip, leapt off its back, and said, "All right, Charlie, Blue Beetle time, please." Charlie shifted from a grapple
Beetle?
arm to a wide-mouthed staple gun and shot metal clamps around the dinosaurs' necks and legs, pinning them to the street. She was proud of how well that had worked, but then saw dozens of other Bio-Mech
Ew.
mind-controlled people.
Wait, why was that called Blue Beetle mode?
headed towards her from the surrounding streets. She looked up to see Kate steering Faborn back to the top of the building he'd started on. Kayla ran over, shifting Charlie back into a grapple, and shot her grip to the top of the building. She reeled herself up and got there just as Kate was crashing her target back down. She then yanked her blade, rotating it and completely severing Faborn's Bio-Mech claw arm. He shrieked out and crawled away from her, making his other arm into a glowing green sword, bigger than Kate's.
Yeah, you think you could beat me? I'm the king of this place, and you're just some uninvited, annoying, pink-haired nobody.
Kayla smirked. You've got that backwards, pal. You know how many supervillains and demons she's taken on? You're just the monster of the week. And she's unkillable Kate.
Oh.
Kate raised her sword again, but Faborn thrust his blade at her stomach. She sidestepped it easily, kicked his arm away, then slashed her sword down, right through his neck.
And there
Both
it goes.
his Bio-Mechs detached from his body, and Kayla looked away from the now very human-looking severed head on the ground, but also made sure to shoot containment nets around both Bio-Mechs to keep them from getting away. She looked down from the building and saw all the other Bio-Mechs he'd made were falling off the people they'd merged with, and everyone just looked really confused, relieved, or both. Kayla grinned proudly. Well, looks like that did it. I mean, this world is still kind of a mess, but at least these people can try living their own lives.
It will take
Thanks,
some time
Kate.
to heal.
She noticed the severed head again in her peripheral vision and looked more away from it. Can I ask, I know you killed a lot of people in back cells in self-defense. Does it feel weird to still do that? Kate shrugged. Not really. I don't see killing like Alexis or even Sterling do. Alexis thinks we're sending people to hell if we kill them without trying to make them better. Sterling thinks they'll get reincarnated anyway. I don't really have any idea what I think's after death, but I know what's now. And I think if someone's killing or torturing innocent people, then they're giving up their right to stay in the now with the rest of us. She looked over at Kayla's face sternly. You good with that? She nodded. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could do it myself still, but I respect that you have your own philosophy for it. And, you know, it's still just nice learning more about the real you. I'm glad I asked you to help me today. This time, Kate fully smiled back. They transported Faborn's 2 Bio-Mechs and Screwbolt to the Everyverse, where there were thousands of monsters and creatures for the mechs to attach to without risking hurting innocent people. Kate looked down at her mech legs and said, Thank you, Screwbolts. If it's good with you, I might come back and get your help from time to time.
That would
Of
be
course,
nice.
thank you and Kayla and Charlie for helping me avenge my fallen comrades and free all those people. It's nice to know that there are people like you out there helping others in the multiverse. Kate nodded, but as Screwbolt started sliding off her, Kayla said, Hey, you know, I've got nothing else I need to do today. Could use a good rollerblading session. Kate grinned again. With their Bio-Mech allies, they both bolted off into the Everyverse, sliding, leaping, and flipping through the alien terrain. And Kayla enjoyed every minute, with her once narrow view of Kate expanding more and more during their time together.
And now they're like sisters. Love it! 4 artworks, 2 characters, 1 masterpiece. That's like the only way to describe this. It's good.
If you enjoyed this episode, both Kate and Kayla have their fair share of original stories in the Multiverse Tales series. You could go back and check out one of those, or you might like my new original series called Vigilance, which has some of the most heartfelt writing I've ever put out there, and is also a bit more self-contained and simple concept-wise. Whereas I love Multiverse Tales, but it can get a bit confusing. Also, the next
Yeah.
movie redraw is set in the universe of Vigilance, where I'm having people design their own Bio-Knights. I'll link a post that describes the rules for that redraw in more depth in the description. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive and inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote by a man named Armando Pandoja, who said, Be too busy bettering yourself to have time to hate on others. I hope that's inspiring. I love you.
That is a simple one, but also a good one. Alright everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoy this. Now remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original video in the description below, and I'll see all you kids next time when we flick on. Peace out.